It's another edition of Time About the Movies, and today we're taking a look at 4th of July weekend 2000. We got 3 big movies to look at, so let's not waste any more time. Let's go ahead and jump on into it, and we'll start off with the biggest new release of the weekend, and that is George Clooney and Mark Wahlberg and Wolfgang Petersen's The Perfect Storm. So The Perfect Storm is based off the book of the same name by Sebastian Junger, but it's also based on a story about what happens with this ship called the Andrea Gale. This is a commercial fishing vehicle that's lost at sea with all hands on deck after being caught in the perfect storm of 1991. And if you don't know what the perfect storm was, it was basically a small unnamed hurricane, which itself was very late in the life cycle. It basically was a large and powerful cyclone. The storm lashed the East Coast, high waves, coastal flooding. It wasn't anything like Hurricane Andrew levels, but it really came out of nowhere. And this came around Halloween of that year, so there was a lot of damage. And of course, one of the more notable things that happened was the ship got involved in it, and it's the second time you have George Clooney and Mark Wahlberg teaming up after Three Kings, which came out less than 6 months before this movie did. Wolfgang Petersen, this is coming off of Air Force One. And usually movies like this, I don't know why, but I'm not usually the type of person that gets into the whole weather movie angle. There's only a couple in particular, though, that I actually have kind of enjoyed. The Day After Tomorrow was one of them. And this one I gotta give it credit for. This is the other one that I really like, and I like it because of the stuff you see in the trailer. The shots of them when they're at sea during the storm, they're very well done. There's a nice mixing of CG and practical effects being used in here, and that shot of the ship going up the wave, that's such an iconic shot, and it definitely shows you why that's on the poster for this movie, because it leaves such a lasting impact on there. To see that on a big screen in 2000 probably would have been something incredible to check out. I mean, on top of that, you got a great cast: George Clooney, Mark Wahlberg, John C. Reilly, Diane Lane, Bill Fichtner, John Hawkes, Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio, Karen Allen, Bob Gunton, Christopher McDonald. Just a phenomenal cast in this movie. Michael Ironside's also in here as well. And it's just a very entertaining film. It's really well done. You go to see this this is the perfect time of the year to release a movie like this, because it's on a big screen. You got these amazing visual effects that really do hold the film together. The story overall, it's your typical story. We've seen this done over and over again, but it works because you have great actors all around here. George Clooney, Mark Wahlberg, Diane Lane. I mean, those alone make it worth watching. And it's Wolfgang Petersen, man. Wolfgang Petersen very rarely makes a bad movie. And this is one of those ones where just visually on its own is something that needs to be seen on its own. I don't know if there is a 4K version of this movie, but man, Warner Brothers better get on that, man, because this movie would probably look incredible on a 4K, I know it has a Blu-ray, but a 4K version of this could look incredible, honestly. And like I said, it's one that I do recommend, mostly because of the visual effects. It's a visual splendor to look at, and it's definitely worth a watch on that front. So definitely check that one out, The Perfect Storm. So, with that said, on to the next movie, and that is Mel Gibson and Roland Emmerich's The Patriot.
Father told me. Mel Gibson, this is not the conduct of a gentleman. I'll take that as a compliment. The Patriot, rated R, opens June 28th.
So The Patriot takes place in the American Revolutionary War of 1776, and you have Mel Gibson playing this American colonist, Benjamin Martin, who's opposed to going to war with Great Britain, but along with his adult son, played by Heath Ledger, they get swept into the war when his home life is disrupted and one of his sons is murdered by a cruel British officer, played by Jason Isaacs. And it's interesting because this is Roland Emmerich. This is the guy that spent the last couple of years making some notable movies, some good, most bad. I mean, Stargate, Independence Day, Universal Soldier, Godzilla. This was the first movie where I think he got the idea that maybe I need to step away from the big, overblown disaster movies and actually do something that is more personal to me. Maybe it is personal to him, maybe not, but it is nice to see him do something completely different in general. And I think it is a very solid film overall. And quite frankly, it might be the best thing he's ever done, even though you could kind of agree with some of the harsh criticisms that most people have with it in Britain about how the whole thing is basically anti-British, and also the fact that there are a lot of things about this movie that are not what actually happened during the time. I think Roger Ebert kind of said it best. None of it has much to do with the historical reality of the Revolutionary War, as long as it's a movie that is at least trying to entertain. And again, this is Roland Emmerich. I'd rather see him do something like this than have another movie where he's just doing the same, where he's just blowing shit up for no reason whatsoever. And I think it's done well. Am I going to say this is a classic movie by any means? No, but again, I'm glad to see that Roland Emmerich is doing something different compared to what I'm used to seeing him doing. And this thing works well for what it is. I think it's fine. Not one of the best movies he's made, but it certainly is a lot. It's the best movie he's made, but I'm glad to see him do something a little bit different that's outside of his norm. Even though this was a big hit, he eventually did go back to doing what he was doing, what he became famous for with. He hasn't gone back ever since, honestly, the more that I look here. Day After Tomorrow is... We'll get to that one later on, but like 10,000 BC, 2012, Moonfall, Midway. Yeah, enjoy this, because this is peak Roland Emmerich right now. It all goes downhill from there. So, with that said, let's move on to our last movie. The biggest flop of the weekend, but is it really that bad? It's The Adventures of Rocky and Bullwinkle.
Oh my God! Experience an adventure that's larger than life.
You weigh 400 pounds!
Yeah, but it's all moo-moo. The Adventures of Rocky and Bullwinkle, rated PG, starts June 30th.
Yeah, I remember when this movie came out. This was a huge bomb at the box office. I mean, it was one of the biggest bombs in history at that point. $76 million budget, only bought in $35 million. But when you look back on it, is it really that bad as everyone made it out to be? Because I certainly don't think so. The premise here basically is simple. You've got a young rookie FBI agent named Karen Sympathy, played by Piper Perabo, who later be seen in Covert Affairs and Cheaper by the Dozen, who enlists the help of Rocky and Bullwinkle to stop Boris, Natasha, and Fearless Leader from taking over the United States. You have June Foray and Keith Scott, I should say, doing the voices of Rocky and Bullwinkle, and you have Rene Russo, Jason Alexander, and Robert De Niro as Natasha, Boris, and Fearless Leader. And for Robert De Niro, this was kind of a big deal because this was his first kids film, and I think he said himself that he did this specifically because his kids wanted him to star in a movie like this. And like I said, man, the movie really is not as bad as people give it credit for. Far from it. I would actually say that this is a pretty fun movie, just for the fact that it's mostly 2D animation. It's 2D animation and live action coming together, and CG animation and live action coming together, and doing it pretty well. Plus, Rocky and Bullwinkle are just so fun to watch. I mean, I'm glad that they made a movie where, I mean, they weren't really, the movie makes it seem like they're not as popular as they once were. They were still fairly popular at the time. You could still watch their shows whenever it was on Cartoon Network and all that. And I guess the idea was that the movie didn't do well because of baby boom, because of the fact that it wasn't being fresh enough to young audiences or appealing to the nostalgia of baby boomers, which in some ways, I can kind of see where they're coming from, but at the same time, I think they did a pretty good job of staying mostly true to the cartoon. I mean, it definitely feels like a lot of the cartoon's elements are in here, and at times the writing can actually be really funny and really smart. I mean, plus you just have a good cast overall here. I mean, Alexander, Russo, and De Niro actually do a pretty good job of handling these roles pretty well here. You got Randy Quaid in here as well, Paget Brewster from Criminal Minds, Janine Garofalo, Carl Reiner, Jonathan Winters. There's a couple of roles in here for some reason, but John Goodman, Kenan Thompson, Keenan and Kellerman here, James Rebhorn, David Allen Greer, Whoopi Goldberg, you see in the commercial there. There's a great cast overall in this movie, and I think they do a really good job, for the most part, of handling this in a setup like this. I don't think it's as good as something like Who Framed Roger Rabbit is, but the film itself even makes fun of the fact that it can't be another Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Like, one of the guys is just like, "This sounds like Who Framed Roger Rabbit," and Robert De Niro's just like, "Shut up, this is totally different," when kind of isn't, but it's still fun, man. Like, I give this movie a lot more credit than I think a lot of people gave it credit for when it came out. I just like seeing these characters on the big screen. Like, it's fun to see. Like, June Foray is one of the great voice actresses, and to see her come back as Rocky again, that's just fun. And I think there is a lot to admire about this movie that I think a lot of people overlooked at the time. And I kind of wish this movie did get more of a following over the years since its release. It's getting it sort of, but not really. But like I said, I think it's much better than people give it credit for. Is it one of the best movies of the year? No. It's still a ton of fun, though. I had a good time watching it when I was little. And even when I watch it nowadays, I'm more surprised at how good it's held up for the most part over the last couple of years. And I really do say definitely check it out if you haven't seen it. The Adventures of Rocky and Bullwinkle. Go into it with an open mind. I think you will actually find it a lot more enjoyable than a lot of people gave it credit for. And so on that note, we wrap up another edition of Time About the Movies. When we meet next time, the Wayans brothers tackle the Scream franchise after Scream 3 kind of killed the series. This was kind of like the equivalent to what happened with Airplane 20 years prior. Scary Movie, we'll take a look at that. We'll also take a look at Bruce Willis in Disney's The Kid, and also Natasha Lyonne in But I'm a Cheerleader. So, we'll have those 3 movies to look at next time, and we will delve into those on the next episode. But until then, thank you very much for watching, and if you want to see more videos like this, please hit the playlist on the next page, check out the previous episode, and also don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button if you want to see more videos like this on this channel. So with that said, I am off. I will see you guys next time, and until then, as always, take care.